Story 1. I don't think she likes me as much as she used to. We have an 8-year-old, and he and I are very similar in our mannerisms and could generally pass for twins if he were 27 years older. The things that he does that drive her crazy he gets directly from me. Story 2. She is the strongest person I've met. I played sports all my life, so I attributed a lot of strength to physical prowess and mental discipline. Turns out I had no idea what strength was. Her ability to mentally and physically endure the relentlessness of parenthood showed me what it's really like to dig deep. No one is perfect, but she is truly inspiring and makes me a better parent. Story 3. How patient she is, no matter how I am feeling or how she is feeling. Has the baby been screaming all night? She doesn't even begin to lose her patience. It's amazing. Story 4. That the superficial happiness of her parents and siblings was more important to her than our relationship and the family that we were supposed to be establishing. Story 5. How clearly she was meant to be a mom. She lost her mother at a very young age and grew up with an evil stepmother. She is the mother she was supposed to have. Story 6. That she has no concept of being a parent. She thought having a child was just birthing it and feeding it. No regard for finances, planning for his growth, getting him ready for life. We are divorced now. Story 7. For some reason, I already thought my wife was just relentless with energy. Before the baby, she would just fill up my weekends with an insane to-do list. No naps in between. Drove me wild. But after the baby was born, it seems like my wife has infinite mental energy. Hardly any sleep, doing this and that, eating so little. Sometimes I argue with her to just relax. But no, like a robot that just can't stop moving. Feed the baby, feed us. Great mom and wife. Story 8. 2 things. 1. She has crippling, intrusive thoughts about me or the kids being hurt or dying. She farts so much she could be a primary man-made source of greenhouse gases. She says she can't help it, they just fall out. And like many of the significant others mentioned in the thread, she's a great mother and partner. Story 9. She is the best friend I will ever have. Been together 29 years as of yesterday. We have 2 children, ages 25 and 22, and 2 beautiful granddaughters. None of that would have been possible without my queen. Thanks for the gold, kind stranger. Story 10. I found out she had been abused by her father and their neighbor when she was a teen, and she fully expected me to transform into a degenerate child abuser once I had a child. Plus, she got postpartum depression pretty badly. Since I was a dad at home at the time, she tore herself to shreds mentally out of fear for the kids and poisoned my relationship with her family. The situation proved impossible to fight, and we eventually split. She seems to have mostly stabilized now, and we share custody equally. I wish her new boyfriend luck. Not the family arrangement I had hoped for, but things are pretty good. Story 11. Her opposition to vaccination. A normally intelligent woman, she jumped on the bandwagon here and continued down a path of chemophobic beliefs that have caused a lot of heated arguments over the years. Perfectly fine and normal parent in every other respect though. Story 12. It is completely unexpected how good she is with kids. I am awkward as can be with kids, and she was not around them a lot either when we were dating and together before our son. She just seems to naturally know how to engage young kids and has far more patience than I do for the super high-energy ones. Now that we have a son, I cannot wait to see how much fun we will all have together. Story 13. While my wife was pregnant with our first child, she got a very aggressive form of cystic acne that eventually left some pretty heavy scars on her face. I thought for sure she would never want to be pregnant again, but this was not the case. We have 5 kids, and each time she was pregnant the acne came back, though we did eventually find a doctor who could treat it with minimal scarring. My wife literally traded her beauty for our kids and was happily willing to do so. I had no idea when we were dating how selfless she was. She is a treasure. Story 14. She is the glue of our family. Emotional intelligence? Check. Nurturing and patient? Always. She has mastered perspective, self-awareness, and unyielding love. My daughter will be her best person because of her mom. I don't know if I could function without her. On the other hand, am impulsive, quick to judge, and a binary disciplinarian. I sit in constant awe of her unending mastery of being a parent. Story 15. That there is a hidden tiger in her. It sprang out of nowhere to my surprise. Not that it's a bad thing completely, maybe we can soften those tiger tendencies a bit over time. Story 16. Just how similar we are patience-wise. It's good because when one of us is at the end of their rope, the other can step in without judgment or question. Because it's okay to get a little frustrated while parenting as long as it doesn't negatively impact our baby. Story 17. That my significant other thinks that she needs to be the kid's best friend and makes decisions accordingly. If there is a problem, no matter how small, she solves it for them. She waits on them hand and foot. Snowplow parenting at the extreme. She is creating a bond of mutual dependency that is inhibiting their growth. Story 18. How much coffee she drinks. I don't know if it was this bad before, but now, 3 years later, she still pretty much drinks only coffee with a glass or two of water thrown in. Like 3 to 4 extra large Dunkin' coffees a day. She has constant anxiety and an upset stomach and gets upset at me if I point out that it's 1:30 in the afternoon, and all she's had today is 2 jumbo coffees and some cigarettes. Story 19. Despite being around small children most of her life, she has little common sense when it comes to raising one. I, on the other hand, was never really around kids, but am usually the one preventing this toddler from actively trying to harm herself. Story 20. As a first-time mom with a 7-month-old, to everyone saying sweet things, please be sure you are telling your significant other this too. I know I would love to hear it. Story 21. My wife discovered that I can make really good omelets. We were both exhausted one day after the birth of our second child and hadn't gotten around to doing the shopping. While she sat on the couch having a few moments of respite, she'd well and truly earned it. I just whipped up an omelet or two for us with whatever was left over in the fridge. I gave it to her and she started to cry. Why? We've been together 10 years. And I never knew you knew how to make omelets like this. I love omelets. You surprised me. I thought it was pretty funny. Story 22. I'm not a parent, but my girlfriend is. Seeing what an amazing parent she is makes me feel better about the difficult childhood I had. I watch her with her daughter and think, so that's what a loving parent is like. I should have had that. Also, I love hearing her read to her child or just talk in general, really. Story 23. Our firstborn son has autism. We were fortunate to have him diagnosed early, and it got us examining ourselves due to high heritability. Honestly, it has been an interesting path of discovery for my significant other, as autism spectrum disorder presents very differently in males than in females, and in different life stages. It has given her and me a new level of understanding. Story 24. That she's even more amazing than I could imagine. She has made being a first-time parent so easy because it's very natural to her. I would be completely lost without her. Story 25. Speaking on behalf of one of my male friends, all his partner wanted was a baby. She had been raised to believe the white picket fence life was the only thing to aspire to. Get a job, get married, have kids, die. While he ranged between being undecided and not wanting kids at all, she eventually manipulated him enough, by withholding affection and intimacy unless she got her way, and even threatening to leave him if he didn't give her a baby, that he agreed to have kids. Except he biologically couldn't. Poor guy ended up wanting his own after he found out. Either way, his partner still wanted a baby and went through in vitro fertilization using someone else's contribution to get one. After a lot of trying and support from her partner, even though he wasn't comfortable with raising someone else's kid, as he saw it, she got pregnant and had a baby. Now she ranges between using the baby as a weapon to get what she wants and using him as a free babysitter. He's trying to raise this baby that she barely picks up, run his own business, and keep his relationship together. According to him, she won't even sleep in the same room as him anymore. Now that she has a baby, he's only good for working himself into the ground. The worst part is the poor guy is hopelessly in love with her and can't see that the cause of all the pain is someone who is supposed to love him back. Story 26. Unfortunately for me and my son, his mother had postpartum depression pretty bad. She struggled for months trying to adjust to her role as a stay-at-home mother. When our son was 8 months old, I had no choice but to leave her. Not going to get too detailed, but it was in the best interest of our son. Ever since, she has refused to help raise and support our son. I am a single father, and I will never give up on my son. Story 27. I didn't know it could pass something that big. I didn't know she could make those noises. I didn't realize how okay I would be with not being the most important person in her life all the time. Story 28. That she had some mental illness issues involving codependency and parenting. Dealing with it, trying to keep a lid on it, has taken some getting used to. Story 29. She's been the absolute best mother. I find it frustrating, her fear of sex noises. At first, it was our parents while dating, now it's the fear of our boys hearing how she moans. It's been one of those things that I find a bit discouraging. I'm hopeful that I will get her to open up the volume once we're empty nesters in only a few more years. The youngest is a sophomore in high school. She's not been able to surprise me. I'm not sure if it's a good or a bad thing. Story 30. How can someone with such a tough past have such a beautiful and nurturing spirit? She said everything that she missed out on, my kids will get 100 times over. I love my wife. Seeing her flourish as a mother has made me deeply and madly fall in love with her. Story 31. That she's human and that she needs me to be on her team as much as I need her. We are an awesome team and communicate so much better. It's really awesome. Story 32. We don't make this a habit, but I walked in after she pooped late one night after finally getting the baby down. We were exhausted, so we didn't really care until I saw she wiped her butt by reaching behind her. I always go between my legs from the front. I mean, it makes sense with the whole vagina thing, but it was new. Maybe not what you're asking about. Story 33. I thought I would need to empty out the house for her to be comfortable enough to want to be intimate. Nope, everybody needs to be home. She's not relaxed otherwise. Story 34. That she still wouldn't get out of bed even when the baby was screaming and wanting to be fed. I thought maybe her ability to sleep through anything would have an exception. I was the one who spent sleepless nights for several months. Story 35. That she is lazy. She became pregnant and we moved in together afterward. I did nearly all the chores during her pregnancy and my child's early years to take stress off her, but she never attempted to do chores as the children became more self-sufficient. I would come home from my 10 or 12-hour shifts and there would be nothing done in the house. I would be expected to cook dinner, do dishes, and give her a break from the children. She said I had my breaks when I was at work. When the children were school-aged, she would read a book every few days while doing nothing else and post on Facebook, bragging about how horrible a housewife she was. I pressured her to get a job so that she could at least add to our income, but she said that it would just make her resent me and said I would not want that. I had a breakdown under the load, and we lost our house. It was not because we could not afford it, but because the money was being spent faster than I could make it. She insisted it was all my fault and gave me a year to fix it with none of her support. She left after the year. Story 36. We discovered that I cannot handle vomit and cannot handle screaming or crying for too long. So if a kid throws up, she is on duty, and if a kid is extremely upset, I'm on duty. I'm like the baby whisperer. I can put any baby or little kid to sleep. Story 37. She was bipolar. Her postpartum depression was terrible, and her treatment exposed years of serious mental health problems and a history of various treatments and medications. She did not disclose any of this to me during our dating and engagement period. She held it together long enough to get married and pregnant. Her family kept the secret as well. Story 38. How much I need help. Seriously, I cannot imagine single parenting. I have immense respect for single parents now because I know how hard it is with even two people. Story 39. How abusive her parents were. There have been many moments where she gets off a call with her mom after asking for advice and tells me what her mom thinks we should do, where I just stare in disbelief and repeat the statement until she realizes what she said. For example, recently we are going through the classic 2.5-year-old meltdowns in public places. Her mom said that she always asked herself, what if someone thinks the kids are melting down because I am not a perfect mom? And then made sure that didn't happen by taking my wife as a kid to the bathroom or car for significant spankings and shouting until she would behave. My wife remembers being spanked and screamed at like this for humming in the checkout line when she was 3. The spanking and abusive shouting emotionally stunted my wife into a 2.5-year-old zombie. If you spank and scream at your kids, especially in my mother-in-law's spank first and explain what they did wrong later manner, you in no way create obedient children because the child does not even understand what the expected behavior is. You create children who live in fear of your wrath. My mother-in-law's standard for behavior is not, what traits am I trying to teach my daughter to have? Or, how can I help my daughter succeed in life? But, what if that stranger gets a little annoyed that my 2.5-year-old is tapping her finger on the shopping cart? They might judge me. The good news is that the realization of all these things pushed us to counseling. We now see a counselor regularly, and though the sessions are technically joint parenting and marriage counseling, we have spent the last 6 months focusing on what my wife went through growing up. I am primarily there to hold her while she cries and to confirm to her my love for her and her value to society because, newsflash, she has no self-esteem.